Before we hop in the video today, just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays. Hope everybody's staying safe. Hope you guys are enjoying time with your family. Can't thank you guys enough for all the support you guys have shown us, helping us get to over 90 subs. We're about 8 away from 100. That's a huge milestone for us. So thank you all, and let's hop on in the video. Greg's on vacation due to Thanksgiving, so it's just Justin today. It's dangerous to go alone, but we're going to make it work. Starting off at 50, we got Marquez Valdez-Scantling taking on the Bears. Pretty tough matchup, but he's been producing week in and week out these past few weeks. 85% of snaps played last week. Made some big plays. Did have that fumble at the end, but what are you going to do? That's football. Stuff happens sometimes. Aaron Rodgers still talks very highly of him, sings his praises. Saw 6 targets, had a big holding call against him, so could have had an even bigger day. At 49, we got Jalen Raegor taking on the Seahawks. He's been playing a lot of snaps. He played 93% last week, had 5 targets. Travis Fulgham definitely bounced back from his terrible performance this week before last, but it's good to see Jalen Raegor doing some good things. If only Carson Wentz could throw the ball properly. The weather definitely wasn't helping, but he looks terrible. Up next, at 48, we got the boomer bust himself, Mike Williams, taking on the Bills. It kind of happens every week with Mike Williams. You gamble on him, he burns you. You bench him, he goes crazy. Sometimes he'll put up an average week and you'll just be happy about it. I think this week against the Bills, it's not a tough matchup. Not as tough of a matchup as it might seem on paper. He's still playing a lot of the snaps, 83%. Guyton has definitely taken an increased role, though. He actually outsnapped him last game. But 7 targets, you can't ask for more. Up next, we got Michael Pittman coming off his 3-catch game where he had a big touchdown play against the Packers that ended up helping them secure that dub. They're taking on the Titans again. He had a great week against the Titans the week prior. Over the past 2 weeks, he's had 10 catches, 167 yards, and a touchdown. Absolutely insane. There's a quote from him saying that he has more confidence in what he's doing. That's why he's been able to succeed, and it definitely shows out on the field. At 46, we got Michael Gallup taking on Washington. He still leads the team in snaps, but it's never really produced into high fantasy games, especially because CeeDee Lamb seems to have such a good rapport with Dalton and Dak Prescott. But Dalton looked better this week. I think it's things to come. He's just getting more comfortable in that offense. 5-target game could be better, could be worse. I think Michael Gallup is a real low flex in play, but somebody you can make work. At 45, we got Nelson Agholor taking on the Falcons. He's been leading the team in snaps recently. He is the number 1 target on that team these past few weeks. He had 9 targets last week. He always has the potential to make some big plays. I think they're going to need a lot of big plays this week against the Chiefs. It's one of those things, though, where he could easily drop you a goose egg. So it's something to look into. Definitely questionable start, but if you have to play him, I think he can always produce, but he can always burn you too. So little devil's advocate there for you. At 44, we got Jerry Jeudy taking on the Saints. He's the clear number 2 behind Tim Patrick, but he's so explosive. The thing that worries me is that Saints defense. They have been on fire as of late. They've only allowed 1 touchdown in the last 3 games. I don't see them allowing Denver to just put up points. So I think you can expect Jerry Jeudy to definitely get some good work in there. He had 8 targets last week. Drew Lock is looking his way more and more each week. Didn't have that after that breakout game. He didn't have that solidified role that people were hoping for, but he's made himself a small role in that offense. At 43, we got Brandon Aiyuk taking on the Rams. So he was placed on COVID reserve November 20th. And he could be activated this week if he was put in there because of close contact. If he tested positive, then for sure he's not going to play. But Nothing's come out either way. I think if he had tested positive, they probably would have announced it, but I could be wrong. So he should be back if it was just for contact. He's the wide receiver one on that team. It also is worth noting that Debo was back at practice on Tuesday. Doesn't necessarily mean he'll play, but something to look into. At 42, we got Jarvis Landry taking on the Jaguars. He has had the worst luck since Odell has gotten hurt. 3 weeks in a row of just bad weather games, playing in the rain, playing in super bad winds. He's still an amazing talent. Cardero Hodge and Rashad Higgins have definitely made a name for themselves, but the talent that Jarvis has, it leads me to only want to play one wide receiver on that team, and it's Jarvis. At 41, we got Tim Patrick, 83% of the snaps, another 8 target game for him. He's been the model of consistency. He's Drew Lock's go-to guy, gets open in space. He's not necessarily the burner that Jerry Jeudy is, but I think that allows him to just have a little bit deeper of a a little bit deeper of a route tree. I think he can run more shallow routes, and Drew Lock ends up looking his way more often than Jerry Jeudy. At 40, we got CeeDee Lamb. He has shown some good rapport with Andy Dalton. Last week he had 6 targets, but they were good plays, all of them. They ended up beating the Vikings somehow. I don't know if this is a blip, but it seems to be that Andy Dalton is just showing more confidence, and that offense has in turn showed more confidence in him. So hopefully they can stay on track, and this week against Washington can actually perform up to the level that offense should have been this entire season. At 39, we got Jamison Crowder taking on the Dolphins. Joe Flacco is ruining this man's life. He was a 10 target guarantee at the beginning of the season when Sam Darnold was there. Quite the fall from grace. Only had 3 targets last week. It does help that he's still playing 90+% of snaps, but Denzel Mims is also doing the same thing, and Rashad Perriman's back. He had a big catch. It's you kind of got to just hope that Joe Flacco can understand that this is the guy. The other receivers are good, but if they want to succeed, they need a go-to target. It's Jamison Crowder, and I think he'll bounce back eventually. I think it just needs to get the wheels back on the track between Jamison Crowder and Joe Flacco. At 38, we got Corey Davis taking on the Colts. Pleasant surprise for Corey Davis. He did have that dud week in week 9, and everybody thought it was back to the boomer bust. But these past 2 weeks, he's continued on his streak. 5 catches in each of the games, had 113 yards last week. Produced well even in week 10 against the Colts, which they'll be playing again. So I expect more of the same. At 37, we have Sammy Watkins taking on the Bucks. He is expected to be available this week, and I think he is going to solidify himself as that wide receiver too, just like he did at the beginning of the season. He really turned up the heat, honestly, turned around all the narrative about him that he's just disappears some games, only has one game every once in a while that he's productive. Last season, he had an amazing first game and then completely fell off, but he was showing that he can be a good, steady target. I think that playoff stretch for him last year gave him confidence, and he's just building on it this season. Hopefully he is confirmed back. At 36, we have T. Higgins. T. Higgins, man, a great player. 10 targets last week, 91% of snaps. You know he can do it, but the real question is, can Ryan Finley do it? And I don't know if he can. Last week, he played about a quarter and a half. He went 3 for 10 and threw a pick. It doesn't bode well for him. I love T. Higgins. I think T. Higgins is a great play. Any other time when Joe Burrow's there, but this week, I'm really torn between this. I think he could produce. Ryan Finley could always make it happen. My ranking here just is solely to do with Ryan Finley. It has nothing to do with T. Higgins. I think T. Higgins has been a model of consistency. 10 targets, like I'm saying. He's done that multiple weeks. It's just really tough because a new quarterback being thrown in there, who's clearly a backup for a reason, it's definitely a cause for concern. At 35, we have Jakobi Meyers taking on the Cardinals. Still played the most snaps on his team. He's done that a few weeks in a row. They did have N'Keal Harry back, and Demir Bird went off. I think I think this was their week. I don't necessarily think Jakobi Meyers is disappearing. I think that rapport he built with Cam is still there. Hopefully, he can show it this week against the Cardinals. At 34, we have Marvin Jones Jr. taking on the Texans. Should be a pretty cake matchup. A lot of scoring, a lot of high octane. Uh, Kitty Galladay was a non-participant in practice Tuesday, so it doesn't look like he's going to play. Looks like Marvin Jones should be back in that lead role like he's been filling these past few weeks. It is worth noting that the Lions looked atrocious this week. Even then, Marvin still had 6 targets and he led all wide receivers. So I think he's a safe play no matter what. At 33, we have Travis Fulgham taking on the Seahawks. Still not the game you were hoping for. After all those crazy games he had at the beginning of the season, you're hoping he can return you that value that he was, be a weekend starter. But I'm not seeing that anymore. I do think he's a solid flex play, but I think he's lost that wide receiver 2 spot. Played 96% of the snaps, so I mean that's great to hear. He's still getting the work, but the 7 targets is great, but when they come from Carson Wentz, it's definitely questionable. At 32, we got Curtis Samuel taking on the Vikings. The Vikings defense is not good. Some weeks they look good, but after last week, I can't say that they're good. You lose to the Cowboys. What more can you say? That really says it all. Curtis Samuel, though, he's been stepping up, double-digit targets. He's not playing the huge snaps that DJ Moore and Robby Anderson are playing, but he's definitely getting it done. Teddy Bridgewater should be back this week. And even if he's not, PJ Walker, he's a gunslinger, so he'll get him the ball. At 29, we have Tyler Boyd taking on the Giants. Again, same thing I mentioned with T. Higgins here. I just don't trust Ryan Finley. I don't know how this is going to go. I basically, if Joe Burrow was there, I would move all of them up 7 spots, I would say, in that range, because they're that good. But who knows what this offense is going to look like. Ryan Finley can't move the ball down the field and they have to run the whole game, then it doesn't matter how many good wide receivers you have, they're not going to be able to get the ball. So I still think Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins are the 2 you want to own. I'm not very worried about AJ Green. He's yet to show that he can be a week in and week out starter, but the consistency for Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins are there. It's just a matter of, can Finley continue to keep that consistency up? At 28, we got Chase Claypool taking on the Ravens. 63% of the snaps, about his average. Saw 8 targets. You know the drill with Claypool. He's going to get you big games. He's going to put you up some average games every once in a while. But the beauty is that Big Ben's looking his way. He's having one of the better rookie seasons. Had a touchdown last week. Had 2 touchdowns the week before. So he's on a good little double-digit fantasy point streak. I think he can continue to get it done, especially with Big Ben on that hot streak, like I said. At 27, we got DJ Chark taking on the Browns. Still a great player. The quarterback play last week was suspect at best. I think Jake Luton will bounce back, though, against the Browns secondary, which has been banged up. Denzel Ward is now out for a few weeks, so that's just one less body to worry about. DJ Chark still saw 8 targets, so it's not like he's disappearing. It's just the fact that Jake Luton couldn't get him the ball last week against a stout Steelers defense. At 26, we got Robert Woods taking on the 49ers, coming off an amazing game, 15 targets, but let's be honest, he's done this before. He's put up huge numbers and then dropped the dud the next week. He always has the potential for the boom game, but I'm just not, I don't have faith in it. If I'm wrong, I'll hold that L, but I just really don't trust it. At 25, we got AB, Antonio Brown, coming off one of his best games so far, a 13 target game, but he's kind of getting the Drew Brees treatment. Tom's looking at him from 5 yards, 10 yards, just trying to get these short yardage so they can get first downs. He's averaging 8.3 targets per game in the 3 games he's played. He still has yet to score a touchdown, so I think that does boost his upside. The fact that he's definitely going to get one eventually. It is worth noting that Tom Brady on throws of 15 plus yards downfield is 1 for 9 for 18 yards and 2 picks. So Tom is not looking great these days, moving the ball down the field. So if anything, that might be better for AB, but he's never going to get that big play unless he breaks it off himself, which he always has the potential to do. But you want your wide receivers to be able to run more routes than just quick slants, quick ends, just small double moves. So looking forward to something to look at. At 24, we got DJ Moore taking on the Vikings. He's definitely had an up and down season, but he's on the uptick right now. I like where he's headed. He had 11 targets last week with PJ Walker. I mentioned this earlier, but Teddy Bridgewater should be back. But even if he's not, I think DJ Moore and PJ Walker obviously had a good rapport. PJ Walker really takes risks, throws the ball, maybe a little too many risks, throwing those 2 red zone interceptions. But I don't know if the second one was red zone, but it was two interceptions in the end zone. So either way, DJ Moore, he can do it. He plays the most snaps on his team. And with that double-digit target last game, my faith is slowly restoring into DJ Moore. At 23, we got JuJu Smith-Schuster. He had 5 targets last game. Not his best game, but he definitely got banged up in the game. Still played a good amount of snaps, though, around 80%. He was a limited participant on Tuesday in practice. However, the way it's sounding, it seems like he is going to play against the Ravens as long as the Ravens actually play. With the COVID stuff, I think they have 5 assistants or 5 people on the coaching staff with COVID and 5 other additional players. So something to look out for, but I think they're going to work it out. At 22, we got Mike Evans, the red zone machine himself, made a crazy play last week to score a touchdown. Just a classic get off me little boy play. Still getting the snaps to 88%. I mentioned this earlier though. Tom Brady is not throwing the ball more than 10, 15 yards down the field. Not even 15-yard plus 1 for 9, 18 yards, 2 picks. That is a terrible statistic. It makes sense that he continues to see all these red zone targets, but they're from 5 yards out. He's just a big body. He can get touchdowns. I think it's good that they're playing the Chiefs. I think it'll be a shootout. Hopefully Tom Brady can step up and make some plays, but either way, Mike Evans will make a few of his own. At 21, we got Davante Parker taking on the Jets. Should be a cake matchup. I see him having a big day. Tua got benched last week. I don't think this is permanent. I think they were just trying to win. Brian Flores was just trying to show the Rook what's up, that if you're going to play like shit, we got Fitzmagic on the bench, and he's willing to play, and he's willing to sling it. I think either quarterback really doesn't matter. I think if Ryan Fitzpatrick comes in, it's actually better for Davante Parker, but it's kind of a wait and see thing with Tim and Tua. They've been building a rapport, but it's not as strong as the one with Fitzmagic. At 20, we got Justin Jefferson taking on the Panthers. Adam Thielen is out on the COVID list. Justin Jefferson had himself a nice day last week against the Cowboys. It's tough when you throw a wide receiver 2 in the wide receiver 1 position, because now all the coverage is on him, but I think he's talented enough to make it work. I do think that probably BC Johnson and the other little white boy in the slot, his name is slipping me right now, but I think they'll probably step up too. So I'm not expecting Justin Jefferson to have like another 40-point game, but I do think Justin Jefferson is going to produce. He's got the talent. It's kind of a wait and see thing against a bad Panthers defense. At 19, we got Amari Cooper taking on Washington. Andy Dalton's back, like I was saying. Apparently, we'll find out if the Red Rifle still got it. 7 targets last week. Amari Cooper's got the talent. It's really just, can he get the ball in the right places? And I'm hoping he can. I'm thinking he will. Hopefully, fingers crossed, if you have to start him, he makes it happen. At 18, we got Robby Anderson taking on the Vikings. Didn't have the super monster games. He hasn't had them, honestly, these past few weeks. But I think if Teddy comes back, it boosts his upside, which it looks like Teddy will be back. But even with PJ Walker, I do think Robbie has the potential. He had 9 targets last week. Didn't play as many snaps as DJ Moore, but is still getting the looks. He's shown all season that he can make big plays. He's a speed guy, so he just needs one over the top ball to make your fantasy day, and I like my odds. At 17, we got Cooper Kupp taking on the 49ers. They had a rough go against the 49ers earlier in the season. I don't know if that's a divisional thing. It most likely is. But either way, the 13 target game he had last week is definitely classic Cooper Kupp. There will be weeks he has an average game, but there's weeks he has an absurd amount of targets. I do think that the Rams look at last game and come out with a vengeance, try and take that dub back, because that was a real poor performance from him. At 16, we got Brandin Cooks taking on the Lions. Played 93% of snaps. I think he's kind of losing that wide receiver 1 target share role that he had to Will Fuller, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's fallen off by any means. I think he's actually one of the most slept on wide receivers in the league. He's averaging 17 plus points since Bill O'Brien got fired, which is just absurd. I think every week his chemistry with Deshaun Watson gets better and better. I expect some good things from him this week against a terrible Lions defense. Deshaun Watson's going to be moving the ball all over them. At 15, we got Chris Godwin taking on the Chiefs. Man, 99% of the snaps, 10 targets. What a day. Chris Godwin was starting a little slow, but he came through in the end. He made it work. Tom Brady throwing 15-yard plus downfield, bad statistic I read for the other two. Still lingers in my mind, but Chris Godwin's the dude. He's got the heat, he's got the skills, and I know he can do it. At 14, we got A.J. Brown. Bounced back last week after that poor game he had against the Colts. But, shocker, he's got to play the Colts again. Don't know if he's going to be able to recreate these monster games he was having prior, but I'm not seeing that terrible game he had against the Colts. I highly doubt they're going to let that happen. That was probably a big point of contention in the locker room to avoid that, because when the offense goes, A.J. Brown goes, and vice versa. At 13, we got Will Fuller. This man has been a true comeback story. Boomer bust his whole career, dropping you 40 or dropping you 0. And now he is the model of consistency you were hoping for. He's a touchdown machine. He makes big plays. He's Deshaun Watson's favorite target, ? I think Brandin Cooks has very similar target numbers, but either way, he's always going to be a great start. Looking at the stats here, he's 5 targets behind Brandin Cooks overall through the season, but these last few weeks, they've been pretty much neck and neck. Brandin Cooks has 1 more target than him, so it's really about what they do with the targets. And usually when Will Fuller's getting the ball, it's a little bit further downfield, and he can really make a play with it. At 12, we got Diontae Johnson taking on the Ravens. This guy's incredible. 16 targets last game. Just absurd. I think he is. Me and Greg had this debate for a while, talking about JuJu versus Diontae. I think I'm on Greg's side now. Greg might be right about this. I hope he doesn't listen to this and hear me say this, because I'll deny it. I'll delete the footage. But Diontae Johnson is just an absolute beast. They are taking on the Ravens, so proceed with caution, but it's a Diontae Johnson party here. Anytime he puts up more than 10 targets, he has a crazy game, and he puts up more than 10 targets way more than half of the games he plays. Just doesn't play that often. That's the main issue here. At 11, we got Allen Robinson taking on the Packers. He's had 9 targets in back-to-back games. He's Nick Foles' favorite target. I think the Packers are going to be coming back with a vengeance. I think Aaron Rodgers is really going to make sure that he doesn't have 2 back-to-back L's. That's not a very Aaron Rodgers thing to do, especially when you're the GOAT like himself. I think he's going to be slanging all over this defense. So I think Nick Foles is going to have to make some big plays to stop that 0-4 skid they're on, potentially 0-5 if I had to guess. At 10, we got Tyler Lockett, a 9-target game, just a classic Tyler Lockett game. I do think he has the boom or bust potential, but with Darius Slay potentially on DK Metcalf, I like his chances. I think the Eagles defense is so poor from time to time. They just take plays off because the offense is so bad that Tyler Lockett can always bust one free. At number 9, we got Michael Thomas. He's finally back. He finally has someone to throw him a ball that's not 4 yards past the line of scrimmage. With 12 targets last week, him and Taysom Hill seem to be on the same page. I expect more of the same this week against a Broncos team that is really struggling to find anything. They managed to beat the Dolphins, but I think that was just Tua's overconfidence. I'm not expecting much from them this week. Hopefully Michael Thomas can bounce back to last year's performance, because that was a crazy season, and I love Michael Thomas. I like watching him play. I think he does run more than just slants. That's a contentious point for my group me, but I digress. At number 8, we got DK Metcalf. 5 targets last week, but going against Jalen Ramsey, if you're getting targeted at all, that's okay, because he's giving him the business and he still managed to produce some points. DK Metcalf is a beast. I think this week against the Eagles, he'll probably see Darius Slay, but it just shows you last week that he can still make the plays. He can still do it. Early in the season, he burned Stephon Gilmore. At 7, we got Terry McLaurin, a limited participant in Tuesday's practice. Monday did not practice, but looks to be on the uptrend. 7 targets. He's the go-to guy in Washington. The Cowboys defense is questionable, even though they beat the Vikings last week. I expect a pretty good game out of the worst division I've ever seen in my life. At 6, we got Calvin Ridley taking on the Raiders. Doesn't look like Julio is going to play. It's technically a game time decision, but there's quotes from Raheem Morris saying they don't want to put him in a position where he could potentially get hurt. And I don't know, the language around it doesn't seem positive. If he does play, I still think you play Calvin Ridley. He's a great play. He's probably not up this high, but with Julio out, I think he's going to have a huge day against the Raiders. I think there's going to be a lot of points in this game, and Calvin Ridley has shown that it doesn't matter. Even if Julio's there, he's going to produce. At 5, we got DeAndre Hopkins taking on the Patriots. Seems a little low compared to our normal ranking, but Kyler Murray's shoulder is banged up apparently, and he had a quote that says he's working through a shoulder issue, so it definitely scares me a little bit. I don't know if he'll be slanging it as much as he's used to. Either way, DeAndre Hopkins is going to do well. He's gonna go up there and snag some balls. He's gonna go dunk on some hoes, moss a few people. He's just that dude. At 4, we got Stefon Diggs taking on the Chargers. This should be a fantastic scoring game, at least. Maybe if you're a defense kind of guy, might not be a fan, but this game should see a lot of points. Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, just 2 QBs slanging it. Stefon Diggs and Keenan Allen are going to be having ridiculous stat lines. Stefon Diggs is averaging over 10 targets a game, which is just absurd, and I see that being in the 12 to 15 range this week. At 3, we got Tyreek Hill taking on the Bucks. He has been on an absolute tear the past 2 weeks, 18 and 14 targets, respectively. I think he has to produce this game because they're going to want to win. I think they're going to scheme up some big plays for him, maybe a big run or two. It's Tyreek Hill, you know the cheetah. He's gonna put in the work. He's gonna burn some people, and he's gonna get you some fantasy points and maybe even a touchdown. At number 2, we got Keenan Allen taking on the Bills. Another 19 target game. He did it the first time. I think me and Greg said, oh, he'll probably never do that again. Wrong. Super wrong. 19 targets again. Justin Herbert knows where to throw the ball, and it's to your best receiver, and Keenan Allen is producing week in and week out. At number 1, wrapping up the list, Davante Adams against the Bears. Doesn't matter who the matchup is when your quarterback is Aaron Rodgers and your receiver is Davante Adams. 11.6 targets per game the past 5 weeks. I'm going to leave it at that. That's enough said.
Thanks for checking out this video. If you have any issue with where we put any of these players or who we put on this list, go ahead and let us know in the comments. We can handle the heat, and we will not get out of the kitchen.
Bully us if you'd like. We're ready.
We can handle it. We're tough boys, but we are so desperate for approval. Hence the YouTube channel.